Hi, Steve Ray from Berkshire Real Estate. Today I'm doing a park bench episode from Tux Express here in downtown Pittsfield, and I'm joined here by Jerrid, the owner of Tux Express.
Thank you for
Thanks
having me.
for having us in today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Tux Express, I think most people know where it is, but why don't you tell us where it is and how long you've been here,
Okay.
a little bit about how you got here.
Okay. I started Tux Express when I was 19 years old out of my car up in North Adams. I had an idea to be able to do a tuxedo business as an in-home tuxedo delivery service because I didn't have very much money, but I knew what I was doing when it came to the tuxedo business because of the previous employer that I had. And so I was able to do the tuxedo business out of my car for the first 5 years. It wasn't until I actually did a lot of business with a certain wholesaler that they took interest in me and said, well, why don't you have a store? And I said, I don't want the bills that come with it. And they had said, well, we'll put a store in for you. And so I put my first store in the Berkshire Mall in April 1st, 1998. And so I had an actual good relationship with them all. It worked very, very well for me. I was there until May 31st of 99. It allowed me to be able to actually have a physical storefront for people to actually come to me and not just call me on my phone or on my pager to be able to come to their house and do everything for them.
Sure.
And so I was there for almost 2 years, and I ran out of room, and I knew that I needed to have a bigger storefront. So a friend of mine, Brian Bordeaux, who was running At Wireless at the time, helped me. And I wasn't from the Pittsfield area, so I had no idea about anything as far as down here at all, because I'm a Burdick from Florida Mountain, and I live up in Clarksburg. And so he brought me down here. We saw all the different vacant storefronts and everything that were on, and I wanted to have something where I could afford it, but at the same time, I didn't have any loans, I didn't have any credit, and I needed to just open up a store. So that's what we did. I honestly found a place that was the closest I possibly could be to what was then Groom's Choice, which was right on this block.
Right.
And I put myself into this, and I worked it by myself for years. And I've been now here for it'll be 21 years in June 1st. But it's allowed me, with being here and having a physical storefront on North Street, it's definitely allowed me to be able to build my business. It's definitely allowed me to be able to expand. You know, when I came here, I was just this sales floor, and that was it. And I had a catalog, and I didn't have any stock at all. So if one of the wholesalers sent in a shirt and it was stained, I had to get something in overnight. Whereas now, back in 2001, I was able to secure my first business loan with Pittsfield Co-op, buy an actual stock of tuxedo coats that I had rented about 7 out of every 10 weddings, and then build it from there. And then later on in 2001, I was very, very blessed to be put into the Pannone family out of Long Island, just off of a whim. I mean, I received an email from eFormal News, which was my soon-to-be mentor, and I responded to an ad that they had on there, and I started working with a company called Gino's Fashions. And Joyce, that was from Gino's Fashions, had taken an interest in me because we had been doing some business together for months. And she asked me why I only buy vests from them and why I only buy shirts from them. And I said, well, because I don't have a lot of money and I'm paying for everything up front. And she had said to me, why don't you send us your financials, because we'd be interested in helping you. And so that was really one of the biggest starts for me, with being down here and not having a huge following and being able to actually invest into what I was trying to do, which was becoming an in-stock tuxedo shop.
Well, all these years later, their confidence in you really paid off.
It definitely did. I got very, very lucky because Joyce's husband, Paul Pannone, was one of the voices for the formal wear industry in our whole entire country. And he basically took me under his wing and mentored me. And I've played in the sandbox with Lord West and After Six and Mel Howard and all of the bigger names that were in our industry in the beginnings that didn't want anything to do with me. And the only reason why they played with me is because of Paul. And he took me on and taught me how to do this business better. And so Yeah, that's how it really started.
Well, you've certainly taken advantage of that and grown this into, the go-to place for tuxedos. But
Yes, sir.
let's talk about a minute. I was really fascinated with your annual event. This just seems to be getting bigger and bigger. Now you've moved it to the stationery factory. So let's talk about Berkshire Bride.
Okay.
And
So
and how you've taken this.
Yep.
And really grown it and you've really created a network of other vendors.
Yes. Yep.
And you've really spent a couple minutes talking about how you really hit that mark for the people here.
About 18 years ago, my wife and I were married, and I drove her insane when we got engaged because I had already been doing smaller shows in the area. Together, her and I created a Northern Berkshire Wedding Fair, a Central Berkshire Wedding Fair, and a Southern Berkshire Wedding Fair. They were all smaller ones. And I started to accumulate vendors that would spend money with me every time that we were doing a show because they were getting results off of it. So after we were married and after I stopped driving her crazy because of all the vendors that I'd already done business with and I wanted them implemented in our wedding, we realized that we should really start to create our own platform to bring in a different type of marketing avenue and advertising avenue for local wedding businesses. Because at that point in time, the only way that you can find out that anyone was getting married is through your engagements in the newspaper. And by that point in time, they're usually getting married 2 months before that, so they've gotten pretty much everything already wrapped up.
Planning's already done.
Right.
Yeah.
And so at that point in time, 18 years ago, there were 6 different paper wedding guides. You had the Penny Saver, you had the Shopper's Guide, you had Berkshire Eagle doing theirs, and so on and so forth. And each one of them were good, but the problem is that when you ask them the question, how many of my brides are actually reading this? How many people that are getting married are actually reading this? And their whole answer to that was, well, we have 50,000 papers going out on Saturday, so you've got 50,000 wedding guides that are going out, and that was the answer. Before the internet, that was a good answer. Okay. Now with implementing into the internet and websites and data collection and being able to understand Google Analyticals and all that, that's not an acceptable answer. Okay, that's not a smart investment as far as for a wedding type business to be able to advertise and gain brides or people getting married. So we had an idea, my wife Diane and I had an idea to create BerkshireBride.com and create it so that way it would serve the purpose of not only the local wedding vendor that pays taxes here in Berkshire County to be able to market directly to brides that are getting married, but also flip it to the bride end of it where the brides now have a place that they can call home, where they can create their own account for free and use that account to be able to plan their entire wedding by using our tools that we give them for free, right down to their floor planning, seating chart, guest lists, you name it, everything. So that way it's completely free for them, so that way they can be home in their PJs and plan their wedding if they wanted to. So by using that model of things, I actually went to a local bank, okay, and proposed the idea because back 18 years ago, our website cost $10,000 to build. Whereas nowadays, it probably cost us $1,000 to build. And so I went there and I already had a loan with that bank for $35,000 to buy my in-stock and everything before. And so online wasn't popular at that point. Okay, it wasn't a good investment, and I don't blame the bank for not giving me the $10,000 loan because it wasn't a tangible asset at that point in time. But there was no vision there, okay? And our vision as a wedding industry, we needed to evolve. So I took the denial from them, and I actually took it and I contacted the 40 wedding vendors that supported our smaller shows and asked them if they wanted to be investors in it. And so for $250, by 40 businesses is my $10,000. And so I had $10,000 in 3 days.
And it turned into the event. How many people went to this one?
So with Berkshire Bride, what we ended up doing that year was we launched BerkshireBride.com, and we took all 3 of our smaller shows and we lopped them together and created Berkshire Wedding Expo. And that's how that began. And we launched Berkshire Bride at Berkshire Wedding Expo, and the rest is history. It blew up, and now it's to the point where we literally average around 2,400 unique visitors a month.
That's great.
We have hundreds of thousands of pages viewed in the months of November, December, and January alone because of the Berkshire Wedding Expo and the event that it's become. The other thing too is that it's almost like a library for brides to be able to go through and read different articles on how to do this and that for their wedding. They have my wife Diane, who is Berkshire Bride, and so there's a live person on the other end of the website to be able to help them and answer any questions for them, refer any businesses that we know that might fit their budgets or their needs better. We've literally been able to help plan weddings within weeks and not months down the road.
Well, you've really taken the entrepreneurial spirit to the next level.
And I've included other businesses and other people along with it. You know, because
you get to ride your coattails a little bit.
Because the thing is that I get to ride their coattails too.
Sure.
Because the thing that I've learned over time is that, you know what, I don't know everything, and I'm never going to know everything. But the most important thing is that I understand that I have to ask people. You know, because for example, you know, Transport the People, Jimmy Regan, has been a huge supporter since day one. He's one of the ones who actually fired me up about as far as figuring it out and trying to make it so that way everybody could be a part of this.
We'll have to get them on.
And there you go. And so, you know, and he said it to me, you know, you do so well as far as with coordinating with all of us members and all of us businesses that, you know, we'll do whatever you want because we make money together. Well, the reason why is because I ask a lot of questions and I involve everybody. I want to have the best of the talents to be a part of what we're doing because I don't care who's right. I care that what we're doing is right and what the end result will be right.
That's a great tool that you've given the community, really.
Thank you.
Just in closing here, though, anything that people wouldn't know about you, because you told me something today that I was really surprised to hear.
Yeah.
And I would never have expected out of Tux Express.
My biggest flaw is the fact of when I was 19, I was so close-minded about that I'm going to do tuxedos that I didn't think about all the other clothing in the world that I could be doing. And so when I created Tux Express, I kind of pigeonholed myself and my business under the tuxedo emblem of things. We do business suits. We do tailoring. You know, when
you say business suits, people can buy them?
What we have back here is all of our new
buy this.
French blue business suit. You can buy it or you can rent it now. Black, you can buy it or rent it. Tan, heather gray, navy, and the charcoal that I have over there that I'll be getting in as well. So what we've noticed in the wedding industry is that 35% of the weddings that are getting married are not using tuxedos anymore. They're using suits or parts of the suits, whether it be without a coat, dress shirt.
You can use it afterwards.
Right. And, you know, and the thing is that from being a business owner, the way I look at it is exactly like when somebody comes in here and asks me what my favorite tuxedo is, the one that rents. Okay? I'm not in this business to sell you what I love. I'm in this business to service you and what you want. And when it comes down to it, with owning Berkshire Bride and with what Diane and I do, we're all about research and data. So we want to know what makes people tick. So in order to be able to sell things accordingly, you have to know what your client wants. And so we've seen this happening year after year after year, where people are now having their weddings at, for example, outside, you know, or even in their backyard, or different venues like that. And it's not necessarily a formal occasion, but they still get dressed up, you know, and it's just in a different realm of clothing. So I had the opportunity last year to actually work with 4 clients that I've gotten to know really well because of our relationship with Hoosick Valley High School, and I've known them now for almost 15 years. And so 4 friends were getting married last year, and 3 of them wanted to do suits, and they wanted to buy their suits because they wanted to wear those suits in each other's weddings, and they would just switch out the colors, so that way the brides would be appeased, and they wouldn't have to spend $199 every single time that they were going to be in a wedding.
Great thing.
And so when that was brought to my attention on it, I said, you know what? I want to learn more as far as about doing this. And ironically, we had a supplier that ended up making suit separates, meaning that when you buy a suit, you generally buy a suit and it comes with a coat and pants. And generally, there's a 6-inch drop in size. So, for example, if you wear a 40 short coat and now your pants are a 34 waist, well, what happens if you're in super shape and you take a 31 waist? Now you've got to buy another suit to get that 31 waist, and now you have a pair of pants and a coat that you now have spent money on that you're never going to wear. So with our suit separates program, I can buy any size coat, and I can buy any size pant, and I can buy any size vest, and they all match, and they all integrate in each other. And with doing that, because of this supplier and how they make everything, the sleeves are now telescopic, so they can be pulled up and down, versus on a regular retail suit where you have the slit on the side and the buttons.
Sure.
It's a nightmare to bring up and down, especially if you were to try and rent something like that. So this is more of the purpose of like our tuxedos, where that's how our tuxedos are made, with telescopic sleeves, so that we can bring them up and down a million times. And so the suits wise, I can sell these as a retail suit, or I can rent them as a rental suit for weddings or for events. So by living through those 3 weddings last year and seeing that, because they wanted to go with this suit right here, with the light gray, and they were able to buy their suits. Some other guys were able to buy their suits as well that they wanted to, and half of the wedding parties wanted to rent their suits because they didn't have a need for having a light gray suit in their closet. So they looked at it as, well, we'll rent this and that's it. So it made sense for everybody and for each of the 3 weddings to be able to do that. So I got my feet wet last year by doing all those things with the supplier. And now it's time to roll that whole entire program out. So that way now we have 5 different colored suits. They're all made in modern fit and slim fit. So that way, if you've got you've got millennials that like their clothes a little bit tighter, and everything, we can do that for them. That's not a problem. So there's all kinds of different options that we now offer at Tux Express. And I'm sure that at some point I'm going to have to implement the word suit somewhere as far as with our name, with doing it. But it's one of those things, man, where you got to look at it from the standpoint of you either evolve or you end up going backwards.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at business.
Well, normally at this point, I ask everybody what do they do when they're not working, but we see this guy's an idea factory, and he's working all the time. Thanks for having us here.
Thank you for having me.
Jerrid Burdick, not just your ordinary entrepreneur, and certainly not just your ordinary tuck shop. Jerrid Burdick, Tux Express, Berkshire Bride. Check the links below. Great. Building community, one party at a time.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Jerrid.
Absolutely.
Now we're going to